Hello, my name is Keith, aka LoLByTheNumbers, and welcome to another 2014 League of Legends World Championship video analysis. And once again, this is not a shoutcast, but rather a video analysis, so we'll assume that you have watched the match, know the outcome, or don't care. I will be focusing primarily on macro level team play, team compositions, win conditions, how teams should do and don't pull them off. I'll also be looking at individual lane matchups and item choices when it becomes relevant, as well as the occasional individual play when it's apparent that those plays are what make or break the game. For this match, we have SK Gaming versus Starhorn Royal Club. This is their second match in the group stages, and we now have Jesus back as the front runner jungle for SK Gaming. It's not Jesus, I'm sorry, Sven Skaren. So without further ado, let's get into picks and bans. These ones go by pretty quick this time around. SK Gaming knock out Zilean, Lucian, and Ryze. Freddy's not a big Ryze player, and they know that Cola loves to play it. Neither is Candy Panda big on Lucian, and they didn't have very much success with Zilean, so instead of taking him away from Starhorn Royal Club this time, they just end up banning him. On Starhorn Royal Club side, we see the standard ban out Freddy. Aatrox Nidalee. Most teams don't want to play against it. Nobody plays Aatrox except for Freddy, really, so it's just taken away from him. Alistar, as he's super strong. First pick, we have Maokai for Freddy. He's been playing strong all game. He really wants to get a champion he can play well, otherwise Starhorn Royal Club will end up picking it up, and he'll be forced back onto Mundo or Kale or something. For the second rotation, we see Orianna Rengar picked up by Starhorn Royal Club. Orianna is a great pickup. Korn loves to play her. Also is a denial pick against Jesus. And we see it paired with Rengar. They're going ahead and giving up the Lee Sin, rather choosing the Rengar for the initiation. The shock value, it's very strong against the North American and European teams in the group stages, as they don't get much practice playing against them. It goes well paired with Orianna. Got a nice ball delivery system. SK Gaming end up taking Lee Sin and Ahri as their next picks. They get to counterpick the mid laner, although it's pretty much an even matchup. It can go in either one's favor. Lee Sin, standard jungle pick in 2014 Worlds. Then we move over to Starhorn Royal Club. They pick up Aurelia. This is really when Aurelia starts to make her showing as a top laner against sort of the trifecta. She does well against Maokai, Ryze, and Rumble, as long as she doesn't fall behind due to ganks. She's also very strong at setting up ganks by maxing her stun. You can get up to a 2.5 second stun, so for your jungler to get into position. It goes very well with Rengar. They both have good damage. The snare and the stun is a lot of lockdown. Very easy for them to get a kill. We also see them picking up Janna as their support, taking it away from SK Gaming, although we don't really see N-Rated playing it. Janna is very strong, does very well against Kog'Maw. Her shield is really good against champions who use auto attack skills rather than burst. They did not show the Kog'Maw pick before this, but it's just a very standard support to pick up. SK Gaming finish off with Kog'Maw Kale, and I'm not really fond of this lane. Understand what it's going for. Kale is picked against Rengar to stop his sort of burst that he can pull out, but that's not all Rengar does. Is the problem. Rengar is the initiation for his team. He's the engage. He's what starts the fight. So a champion that has disengaged from the support role, say Janna, but she's already picked, but rather Nami or even Thresh to a lesser degree, to some degree Braum as well, they're able to, or even Sona would do well, they're able to stop the engagement from Starhorn Royal Club's team, whereas Kale just prevents that initial burst damage. Kog'Maw is also a standard pick for Candy Panda, going back into the hyper carry role, not picking up Tristana, picking up Kog'Maw, performs similar features. And then the final pick by SHR is Vayne. Vayne is a very strong pick into this dual lane, and I'll get into that in a little bit. In most matchups, Vayne is the one who gets bullied, but in this one, just because of the support picks, SHR have the stronger 2v2 lane at the start. It will change later on, but right at the beginning, we'll see SHR taking control. In terms of team compositions, Starhorn Royal Club are really running a split push composition. Aurelia and Vayne can run a 1-3-1 with Orianna providing wave clear and protection at turrets in the middle, and Janna providing disengage if SK try and attack her. Rengar does really well in this 1-3-1 split push, even though he doesn't defend middle as well as say Kha'Zix would for delay tactics. He's very strong and quick at getting to the side lanes where the split pushers are to support them. This means that SHR can run that 1-3-1 and push with Orianna being protected by Janna, and then have Rengar towards one of the side lanes ready to go assist Aurelia, ready to go assist Vayne. Also means they can run the 1-4 split push with Rengar also able to run off and support that lane. It's really strong at this, and nobody on SK's team can really deal with Aurelia or Vayne once they get going. Aurelia is going to reach that point where she's too tanky and has too much sustain for Maokai to kill, and she'll have enough tankiness to survive Ahri's burst. I'll continue talking a little bit. I want to point out this bottom lane, as it's going to focus on it a lot. This is why I like the Vayne pick, is she gets the auto attack and then the tumble resets on the Vayne shield, gets that extra damage, or on the Janna shield she gets that extra 80 bonus damage. It's really strong. The Janna shield blocks out 2 or 3 attacks, and this is from Kayle or from Kog'Maw. And we can see her really using this to bully Kog'Maw and Kayle at level 1. Since Kog'Maw and Kayle pick up their auto attack skills first generally, they can't break that shield that Janna puts out. It means Vayne is going to get 1, 2, maybe even sometimes 3 buffed attacks and without taking damage in return. This is huge for SHR's team ability to bully. This is also facilitated by the fact that Kog'Maw's range is not very long unless his W is up, and this allows Vayne to get close enough to get the one shot into the tumble, or even just the tumble shot and back off with the shield. What I would have liked to have seen from SK's lane is, instead of picking up the auto attack skill on Kayle, pick up his Q for some burst. Constantly throw it at Vayne, force Janna to use her shield defensively on Vayne instead of offensively. You could have timed it right where Kog'Maw used his W to take a shot at her, Kayle throws out his Q, you kill Janna's shield, remove that AD advantage right away. The reason for this is Kayle's not going to get as many auto attacks out as he would like with his E. Vayne will get the one shot, run away, one shot, run away. He's just going to trade damage with his E rather than provide superior damage. As this lane matchup is progressing, since the video is so focused on it right now, we do see SK turning it around. They kind of come out from behind into ahead, and here's a big problem. Kog'Maw could have chased Vayne. He had every ability to chase Vayne. They had the ward, they had the vision. He could have even flashed for it. Vayne had already used her heal, already used her flash. Kog'Maw just needed to get 1 or 2 more hits on her. This would have won SK the lane. It would have denied Vayne several CS. It would have given Kog'Maw first blood. Would have allowed them to push into SHR's tower, back up, buy first item Sheen, buy first item Phage, come back into the lane with a huge advantage. Because SK do not do that, now they're sitting on the back foot. They can't leave because SHR is not leaving. Kayle's really low, Kog'Maw's really low. Kog'Maw can't go in anymore because Janna's shield is back up. If he tries to dive Vayne, he'll be the one who comes out worse for wear. This is a big factor in the start of the loss from SK, or rather, a point where they could have taken control of the game. So having said that, we'll now see SK's team, because of the sustain advantage, they'll come out ahead. SHR back off now. Vayne is able to pick up her Vampiric Scepter on her first back, which is very important because she needs the sustain to deal with what Kayle's pushing out. Well, what this ends up causing is that SHR, even though they haven't won the lane, though they almost did through the kill, they're now able to survive it for the rest of the match. Which would normally be a bad matchup for SHR after level 3 now becomes an even one, because Vayne gets that early back to get the sustain that will keep her healthy enough to CS. They will end up falling a little behind, especially as Kog'Maw hits level 5. They have more sustain, they're ranged. Things will now turn into SK's favor. But Starhorn Royal Club did a great job of taking control from level 1, almost winning the lane off a kill, and allowing Vayne to get the item she needs to be more relevant in the upcoming levels. So back to SHR's overall team strategy. Just to reiterate, it is the 1-3-1, the 1-4 split push, using Orianna and Janna to defend. Nobody on SK's team can fight Vayne or can fight Aurelia. Aurelia being able to outdamage and sustain Maokai on even footing, especially if she decides to pick up a Vamp Scepter at some point. Also, she's easily going to be allowed to pick up an early Negatron Cloak that will be great against Ahri and Maokai, giving her more tankiness to survive Ahri's burst, and more tankiness to just survive Maokai as well. This will allow her to win the 1v1 in split push against either of them. As for Vayne, we know Vayne is great against Maokai. There's not much she can do, especially once she gets her Blade of the Rune King. She's at a little bit more of a disadvantage against Ahri, but as long as she can properly use her ultimate and dodge charms, Vayne should be able to come out ahead against Ahri in the 1v1 as well. So this gives SHR two options in the mid and late game for split pushing. And as said before, Rengar is great at supporting split pushes, as he can quickly get into the lane and get those sneaky kills. If the split push does not work out for Starhorn Royal Club, they also have the option of 5v5 team fights. They're going to have a very large mid-game power spike in Aurelia and in Rengar. Rengar using the ball delivery system just makes Orianna that much stronger as well, so this also increases their mid-game power spike. Grouping up as 5, Rengar can leap in, they can attempt to kill Kog'Maw or attempt to kill Ahri. They get that engage, get that initiation. It's followed up by a great Orianna ultimate, by Aurelia coming in and sowing chaos, and then Vayne having the mobility to run around in the team fights. Now this is a big thing when you have Vayne on your team, is your team should be the one engaging. If your team engages, then that allows Vayne to use her close range duelist potential. And here's where we see Rengar's picking the right lane to gank. He knows Aurelia's safe, he knows it's going to be really hard to hit Ahri, and that Kayle and Kog'Maw have no natural escapes. He goes straight there the moment he hits level 6, gets the kill onto Vayne, and this is important. She was falling behind in CS from going from what they had as a bully lane at level 1 and 2, now has turned into a lane where they get bullied. However, this gank will really change things up. It gives Vayne the power to all in against Kog'Maw. And that's the one thing that SHR's dual lane can do to defeat SK's. So moving on to SK's side, their team composition is really a sort of siege, poke, protect. I like to call their win condition PPP. Poke with Kog'Maw, pick with Ahri, protect with the rest. Once again, they're not really running anything sort of a disengage, and they need to avoid the 5v5 encounters where they get engaged upon. Rengar's going to be what sows chaos into their team. If Rengar is able to get into Kog'Maw with Orianna ultimate on top of him, that's going to be very dangerous for SK. The good news is that they have Lee Sin. A big thing he can do is carry a pink ward anytime they see the exclamation point, so the Rengar warning, he can throw it down and then just kick Rengar back. Use the Lee Sin kick as a disengage tool against the one real initiation tool that Starhorn Royal Club have. If they're able to stop this initiation, then they can attack towers or objectives with Kog'Maw, let him poke while Ahri throws out her charms. Kog'Maw has the largest range in the game. In terms of poke ability, he'll be able to whittle down Starhorn Royal Club's team who has no sustain. Ahri is the only person in the game with any real pick potential. Throwing out her charm would allow SK the opportunity to sort of fish at turrets for kills. If she were to land a charm onto Vayne or onto Orianna, they can throw Freddy in there for the lockdown, get the kill, especially because Ahri ends up going Deathfire's Grasp, which I really do like in this situation. In most situations, I'm not a fan of Ahri going Deathfire's Grasp, but in SK's team, in any team where you're looking for poke and catches rather than full-on fights, this is a much better pickup than, say, going a Death Cap or CDR. So that's SK's win condition. They want to sit at turrets with Kog'Maw, poke, get 1 or 2 shots on the turret with him, make sure to stay safe. Kog'Maw should always be holding back on attacking turrets whenever Rengar's ultimate is up. He does not want to be the one to get caught, so he just sit back, use his ultimate to poke and whittle down a team. If SHR decide to circumvent this by split pushing, then SK have a strong enough team that they could turret dive an Orianna or turret dive Rengar when Irelia hoofs there. They have the options to force SHR off of turrets if Irelia and Vayne are not there. So it's really just a trade-off of styles between SK and Starhorn Royal Club. So in a sense, Starhorn Royal Club are the ones who have to make the moves. They have to get Irelia ahead, they have to get Vayne ahead. They need to be in these positions to duel one-on-ones, to be able to run away from jungle ganks, and to have Rengar there to come to support them. SK just need to play safe. They need to get into their mid-game items. Great time when Ahri has Deathfire's Grasp and Kog'Maw has his Trinity Force. Probably the best time for SK to be looking to group up. That means Maokai will have his Rod of Ages. By delaying the game through tower pushes, he's still scaling through the Rod of Ages, even while Irelia will not be getting money. So this does help Maokai grow stronger. It's also a great way to deny Rengar's engagements by grouping as 5. Really, the best thing to do against Rengar is to be grouped as 5. You knock out so much of his potential because he's so very single target focused. We do see Orianna getting double kills here. This is really good for SHR because Orianna is a major threat when combined with Rengar. That ball delivery system does so much. So that's the win conditions for both teams, and that's their team how they play out. Here's my point on bottom lane. Vayne having this Blade of the Rune King now, because she was able to survive her weak point, she's the one who she just dives into this team and is ready to kill them. Aurelia's TP was unnecessary. I think it did end up saving Vayne's life, though Janna could have used her ultimate to split up Kayle and Kog'Maw better and to heal Vayne. I don't think the TP was necessary, but it does guarantee SHR the kills and guarantee them the dragon. And this is why the pick of Vayne is good in this matchup, especially with Janna, is they can take the fight to Kayle and Kog'Maw. Whereas if Kayle was, say, another support, say Thresh, he gets the flay, he gets the hook onto Vayne, or he's Nami, he can disengage for Kog'Maw using ultimate into a bubble. Then you get the slow from Kog'Maw. It's just much more ability for another support to be useful in this situation. One other thing that needs to be taken into consideration as a Kayle support is that a good portion of your damage in the 2v2 fights is your auto attacks. However, with Vayne getting the invisibility from her ult, it slows down Kayle's damage. He loses out on several auto attacks over the course of the fight. Same thing with Kog'Maw, he really needs to hit those auto attacks with his W up. Vayne being invisible really shuts down maybe 2 or 3 potential auto attacks coming out from their auto attack skills. Right now, the game is running in SHR's favor. they've gotten Vayne going. She's pretty decently far ahead of Kog'Maw. I want to point out that this engage from Ahri was really, it was well played, but very bad decision. She landed her charm, she landed all her skills, she got the Deathfire's Grasp right, but you're doing it onto an Ori who has her ball on top of her, which gives her extra MR and armor, who also has Athene's Unholy Grail for more MR, most likely running magic resist runes, and Ahri didn't have sword boots yet. All she had was a Deathfire's Grasp. Without the extra penetration, it means Orianna is reducing damage not only from Ahri's skill kit, but also from the Deathfire Grasp itself. Magic penetration is the only way to increase the damage that Deathfire Grasp does, and without it you lose a significant portion. Without Ahri's burst, Orianna is really able to turn around the fight, and we saw it there. Janna coming in, while guaranteeing the save and the kill, I believe that Orianna still could have taken Ahri without her. She had only used her two skills. Her command attack and dissonance come up much quicker than Ahri's skills. Charm wouldn't have come back up in time. Neither would her W. Ahri's only skill at that point was going to be her Orb Deception, and it was something that Orianna could dodge. So going forward, the teams are still even. There's still potential. SK are behind. They keep splitting up. It was a good dodge by Ahri there. They need to start grouping up. Kog'Maw has his Trinity Force, and those are behind. They kind of have to say, okay, we can't do this split push. We need to move together. Fortunately for them, they're not. SHR are the ones grouping up, and they're taking another tower. SK Gaming already have top down. They already have bottom down. They should be grouping and doing their PPP composition. Let Kog'Maw poke SHR under the turret. Let Ahri look for charm picks. And have Maokai and Lee Sin be ready to stop Rengar. Get a nice pink ward in the middle of the lane so you know he's coming. Get some on the side. Just be prepared for this. There's no reason for SK to keep farming at this point. We do see Vayne. She's out of position here. And SK Gaming do a good job of coming around to kill him. We can also see how strong Vayne is. She almost kills Kog'Maw still in this situation. If that had been a one-on-one fight, Kog'Maw would have definitely gone down without any trouble. And this is why SK Gaming need to group up instead of still farming these side lanes. They have to move into their team composition because they're losing the individual matches. The only person on SK's team who is really winning is Maokai, and he's not necessarily so much winning. He's picked up kills through ganks and through other lanes. Aurelia doesn't have to fear him. She can go do her own thing. She's hasn't been denied too hard. Every minute that SK delay pushing, delay sieging, is another minute that Rengar has to gain back his ult and use it for another pick. SHR just need to continually delaying, letting this happen. SK are playing improperly with their team composition, and it's allowing Starhorn Rogue Club to easily use their composition correctly. They're the ones who want to drag out this lane phase. They're the ones who want to keep Aurelia and Vayne in the side lanes, and they're the ones who want to use their jungler to get those big plays. Coming up, we see Dragon come soon, and this is really the solidifying point of where SK lose the game. Right now, they still have the options to play their poke and protect composition. We see them actually using it right here to take the mid turret. They don't do it as much as the siege. It's just being there. It takes them a while to get that one last hit, though. But they could have been doing this from the start. Having this group here is really strong. You just let Kog'Maw throw out his ultimate. and just wait. Even if you get some minor damage from, say, Orianna Balls, Kale is sustained, he can heal it up. They see Rengar ultimate, they back off. This is the problem. Maokai's TP here loses them the game. This Kale ultimate is also really bad. There's no reason for you to use Kale's ult defensively like that. If you use Kale's ultimate on a low HP target who's already running away, you're losing out on all the potential. That person's already out of the fight. You might as well let them die and let somebody else get damage in the fight. So this Maokai TP, and we'll see it in a replay later, he TP's way, way, way behind his team. And it's a great job by SHR to recognize how far away he is. Their whole team turns, Orianna runs away and backs off, while the rest of SHR just kill Maokai. And Maokai can't be alone. He doesn't do all that much alone. SK needs his ultimate for that damage reduction protection. He needs to be that front line so Kog'Maw and Ahri can get their damage in. So Ahri can find that pick. So Kog'Maw is safe to be his long-range artillery. Instead, Maokai TP is way behind. Vayne is super strong against Maokai with the HP shred from Blade of the Ruin King and the true damage that goes through his ult and armor. It's just not a situation that should have happened. Maokai should have TP'd into a closer ward. I believe there was one in the tri-bush. Maybe we'll see. If not, there is one in the lane bush. And just been there for the fight and the purpose of using SK's team comp. Maokai trying to engage like that really goes against SK's team comp. Like I said, they need to poke, protect, and pick, not be the ones engaging onto a fight. It was just a failure of Maokai to recognize what his team needed. He threw himself there for the engage. Everything went downhill from there. SHR kill him, get another kill onto, I think it was Ahri. No, Ahri and Kale. Yeah. They get the 2 kills on Ahri and Kale. Maokai's TP is now down. He's too low to fight. They rush Baron in essentially a 5v2 at the worst case scenario. Take Baron, get out, get some more kills. See, here's this pink ward. Maokai should have teleported to this pink ward right here. He's way away from his team, and we just see Vayne go and annihilate him. We also get Aurelia coming in. She has true damage. Now Maokai's ultimate is useless. Nobody's in there for the fight. Kog'Maw's zoned out by Orianna. And now we see the beautiful shockwave. Exactly. SHR played that so well. They're the ones who wanted to 5v5 fight. They want to engage. They want to keep SK from being able to grab these picks and pokes. If Maokai had teleported into that pink ward or to the lane bush behind, SK simply could have backed off, let SHR back off. They knew that Rengar had just used his ultimate and they had already disengaged. It would have been very safe. After Rengar's ultimate was down, they sit at the dragon, Kog'Maw pokes, Ahri's there to throw out her charms looking for a pick, and they wait for an opportunity. SK had no need to force that engagement, and because they forced it, they ended up losing the fight. And essentially the game. At this point in time, there's nothing that Starhorn Royal Club can really do. SHR is strong enough that they could dive if they choose to. They're strong enough that they have full control of the jungle and can rotate and look for positional mistakes by SK, and they're strong enough to split push if they so desired to. Aurelia can take out Maokai or Ahri, so can Vayne. Vayne's strong enough to take them both out 1v1 too. There's the wave clear from Ahri is decent with Kog'Maw, so they can defend one turret. But like I said, the split push will split them up. Without both Kog'Maw and Ahri, neither of them can defend a turret by themselves. So what could SK have feasibly done in this match? Kog'Maw needed that first blood, first of all, in the bottom lane. That would have been extremely important, would have given them the EXP advantage. SK probably would have hit 6 before that Rengar gank came in. That would have allowed them to survive that. It would have prevented Vayne from getting the snowball from the gank. Would have given them the ability to bully even harder, as Kog'Maw probably would have returned to lane with a Sheen or a Phage. If not, at least 2 item components to it, and a pots, maybe boots as well. The lack of aggression, lack of going in for that last hit really cost them. The other option is Kale should have took his Q at level 1, I believe. It would have allowed them to focus Kog'Maw's W and his Q onto Vayne, getting more damage because she's stuck with the slow, as well as knocking out Janna's shield. Instead of relying on the auto attacks, it takes 2 or 3 auto attacks from Kale to make up what his Q would do. And because the auto attacks don't kill Janna's shield right away, it allows her to get that extra 80 buff damage for better trades. Aside from that, they also could have picked a different champion than Kale. We know the point is that Kale's ultimate is to stop Rengar, but I said before, you're not stopping the engage, you're not stopping the crowd control, you're not preventing SHR's team from closing in when Rengar goes in. Whereas if you pick someone like Nami, Nami throws out her tidal wave when Rengar's going in, knocks him up, stops his engage, slows down the rest of his team behind him. It's a great way to fight against Rengar. I also feel that Kha'Zix is a little better against Rengar, but that's just really a preference. Kha'Zix because he gets the vision and the disengage spread from his W. Throughout the rest of the match, there was just several misplays made by SK. We mentioned the bottom one. I've mentioned Ahri going in the mid lane and trying to 1v1 Orianna when she's lacking any type of magic pen. That's it. SK didn't play their composition properly. If they really wanted to take the game to SHR, play their purpose rather than playing into SHR's purpose, they needed to siege that mid turret that was left up, and they needed to do it the moment Kog'Maw hit his Trinity Force. It's a big power spike for him. It's one of the best times for him until third items come up, and that would have allowed them to whittle down SHR, be prepared for the Rengar engage, and be prepared to stop it. And in the end, that's this match. So I'm going to mention a couple items real quick. We see Captain's Boots coming out of Janna. I mentioned in a couple other videos, this is a really great pickup, especially when you need to dodge skill shots like Kog'Maw's ultimate and Ahri's charm. It allows your team just a little bit more mobility to get into the fights. It works really great on Janna as it does double duty with her passive, and it works great when you have Rengar on your team as it allows him to get in for those engagements with his ultimate quicker. She does end up picking Mejai's, and I think that's simply because they know how dominating they are. A much better pickup would be Mikhail's Crucible. It would prevent the charm, really save somebody's life against Ahri. We see Haunting Guise picked up by Orianna, and I'm not necessarily a fan of this, but when you're this far ahead, getting extra magic penetration really does help you out. This extra magic penetration is going to do wonders against Kog'Maw and Ahri, and it's a really cheap item. That's not too much else to say. Everyone else's items are pretty standard. They're doing well. I like that Lee Sin picked up the Sightstone, and that's one of his normal items. I do wish he would have gotten it earlier. Probably gone into it as soon as his Spirit Stone was finished instead of looking for his Elder Lizard first. That way they can get deeper wards onto Rengar and keep control of him. SHR's win condition right now is just play the game. They don't need to do much at this point. They are being the team ahead and with the double split pushers and having really strong late game champions in Vayne and Orianna, they don't have too much to worry. SK could probably look for a comeback around the 6 item mark for their whole team, but that means another 20-30 minutes. SHR have plenty of time to play this game methodically, do their split pushes, slowly get to the towers, take the objectives like Dragon and Baron, continually increase their lead. There's no way for SK to really stop them. Even if SK try and do what their composition is built to, the poke, pick, and protect, SHR are too strong at this point that they're just be a bulldozer and run through SK's team if they try and show themselves out. And in the terms of lane matchups, Aurelia versus Maokai is very much a farm match. Aurelia's sustain allows her to sit through the damage that Maokai is able to put out. Same goes for Maokai. His sustain allows him to sit through Aurelia's damage output. Both of them can try to harass each other, but it really comes to nothing. They're both good at setting up ganks for their jungler. Either one could come top and be very successful. It works out pretty well against Aurelia for Maokai because Lee Sin has slows instead of hard CCs. Maokai has his snare that goes into more slows, and slows are much better at killing Aurelia in ganks than hard CCs are. Same on Aurelia's side. Getting a gank with Rengar is extremely strong. You get the double hard CC against Maokai. You have the true damage. Rengar does good damage himself. Very easy setup, very great gank potential. Around level 6, the match does change a little bit. Aurelia gets stronger. Once she gets her Trinity Force, or even just her Sheen and Phage, is when you really see her start to pull ahead of Maokai, as he's into his Rod of Ages scaling point. For Maokai, however, at this point, he can just wave clear very easily. He doesn't need to worry about losing CS, being pushed at his tower. He's strong defensively at his tower. He just can't fight Aurelia in the 1-on-1 outside in lane. If Aurelia decides to pick up Life Leech as well, then throughout the game she really will be able to take anything Maokai can dish out. We don't see it in this matchup, just fine. It's not a normal pickup for her. It's much better for her to be the tanky one in this match as Rengar's gone full damage. For Orianna versus Ahri, it's always been considered a very even matchup, and it is. Orianna, I kind of give it to her and say a 55-45 match because she has higher sustain damage and because she only needs to dodge one spell from Ahri. As long as she can dodge Ahri's charm, she's always at the advantage in this matchup. She has stronger auto attacks, she has higher sustained damage because of her cooldowns being quicker with the command attack. Dissonance does about as much damage, if not more, than Ahri's Foxfire. It's just really in her favor. She just has to be properly prepared with her ultimate. Ahri's strong point is with that ultimate, getting into position for that charm. If Ahri is able to use her level 6 to get that charm, she can beat out Orianna in the lane. She has to be prepared because Orianna does go defensive. She gets extra MR from her ball. If she lands her ultimate onto Ahri, which is not that difficult during Ahri's dashes because she does have the delay, and Ahri's tend not to move during that dash. They tend to dash, cast a spell, and auto attack, so they're vulnerable. If Orianna keeps her ball on top of her or close, she can throw it out or just walk into her ultimate, hit Ahri, get her damage off, and all of a sudden Ahri's all-in trade is gone negatively in her favor. Already talked about the bot lane, so that's it. That's the match. Once again, mostly because of the Kayle being weak in lane, the Vayne Janna being strong against it due to the double auto attacks not breaking shield very fast. That allowed Vayne to bully early on, get a little bit of an advantage, allowed her to pick up her Vamp Scepter so she could sustain through the weaker point of the level 3 through 5. The good Rengar ganks allowed Vayne to get a lead, which meant she can all-in Kog'Maw at any time she wanted to. And this sort of cut out the advantage that Kog'Maw has over Vayne after the level 3 and into the ultimate areas. Because he didn't take that early kill, First Blood, that also didn't allow them to get ahead and allowed Vayne to be very strong against Maokai later on. Prevented Kog'Maw from picking up and getting strong, which SK really could have used, especially in their pick, poke, protect comp. If Kog'Maw had got his Trinity Force earlier, perhaps SK would have decided to push quicker, and then they could have properly used their comp. As it stands, SHR played their composition well. They got Vayne to the point where she was strong enough to survive on her own. They got Aurelia, just naturally became strong enough against Maokai. Sorry. Had to sneeze but didn't. And then they just kept the laning phase going. They kept the split push up. Aurelia was always top, Vayne was always bottom, Rengar was looking for his picks. They extended the laning phase, extended the split push duration, which allowed them to continue to scale. SK played into this instead of moving into their pick, protect, poke composition that they needed to do to keep SHR on the back foot. So if you take anything from this match, I really want you to take the fact of playing your composition to its strengths. You want to be the one putting the other team on the back foot, not letting them put you on the back foot. It becomes a big tug of war, but you always have to recognize when you are failing to play your team compositions to its strengths. So, I hope you took some good knowledge, some insight, or at least it was entertaining. And once again, the notes for this match can be found below, as well as a link to my portal page for all the 2014 League of Legends World Championship matches for their notes and their video analysis. Once again, I'm Keith, aka LoLByTheNumbers, and thanks for watching.